right, everyone. Welcome back to
Unknown,
Unsolved
unseen.
Triple U.
Woohoo.
I was going to try to do a southern accent because this takes place in Kansas. But it wasn't good.
Kansas.
That was not good.
I can't do accents to save my life.
I'm super terrible at accents, too. Other than this one time that I was with a friend in Atlantic City and we decided we were going to be British.
And how's that accent go?
I couldn't do it. It was terrible. I was also 11.
I just know, oi.
A Tuesday.
Tuesday in it.
That's, is that like racist?
I don't know. Our 5% of British listeners, please let us know if we're being racist or not.
Yeah.
You guys are our second highest populous country listen.
Nice. In the background, if you hear some odd clanking noises, I don't know, clunking noises, really?
Clocking, biting, I don't know. Atlas is being, Atlas.
Yeah, so we just got back from training. We were kind of hoping he'd be tired enough to sleep. Apparently the 5-minute cat nap, or dog nap, I suppose, that he had in the car, was enough to rejuvenate him. And so now he's running around the living room chasing a donut. A chewable donut thingy. Nylabone for the win. Alright, you got announcements for us?
So, actually got two. One, events coming up. Go check them out. They'll be on our Instagram, especially this one's not on the Instagram yet, but the Carbondale UFO Festival is this fall. You definitely got to check that out. But there's other ones like Kecksburg, the Paranormal Research Symposium in Gettysburg, a bunch of different Bigfoot days, Flatwoods Monster Conference, variety of things. The other thing is, here's our announcement that Unknown, Unsolved, Unseen is teaming up with some other podcast to start, helping each other and promote each other. Yeah, we're going to start promoting seeing some more collabs here. So you're going to expect to see some of them. Probably next week you'll hear some promotions in the episode for one or two of the other podcasts. But we're trying to spread the word right now of all the other podcasts. If you see some new posts on Instagram, whether it be story or whatnot, you'll see some stuff about us supporting some other podcasts.
Yeah, Frank's done a really great job being a part of getting that set up, and I think he set up the Discord and all that jazz, so we're excited to work with some other great podcasts and get everybody going where they want to go.
Right, that's all I had for announcements.
Alrighty, so we ready?
Yeah, I believe you're taking us down to Kansas, and I think this is our first episode down in Kansas.
Yep, Missouri and Kansas will be where we're at. So before we get started, I just want to give some trigger warnings. This is going to be a really tough episode, not necessarily because of the person who died in terms of his death, but more so because of his actions and behaviors that led up to his death. Now, his death is unsolved, so that obviously is why he's on here, but it's definitely an interesting story. So today we're going to be talking about Ken Rex McElroy, who was nicknamed the Town Bully. And with that information, your trigger warnings are going to be rape and statutory rape, so rape of a child, murder and assault with a deadly weapon, multiple times, as well as a multitude, whatever you want to call it, of other crimes, traditional assault, lots of theft, lots of just straight up nastiness.
Crime of all variety.
Yep. So, Frank, initial thoughts when you hear the term the Town Bully?
Some dickhead that nobody likes.
Yep, pretty much. So, Ken Rex McElroy was born on June 1st of 1934 in the small town of Overland Park, Kansas. He was the 15th of 16 children. Just let that sink in.
Say it again?
He was the 15th of 16 children that were born to Tony and Mabel her maiden name was Lister, but Tony and Mabel McElroy. So Ken's parents, so that's Tony and Mabel, were poor migrant tenant farmers. I had to look up what that meant. That means people who rent the farmland rather than own it. And they moved frequently between Kansas and the Ozarks, which I believe is in Missouri, before they, or like surrounding kind of around the Missouri area, before they finally settled outside of Skidmore, Missouri, and that's where this story is going to majority take place.
Skidmore, more like Skidmark, Missouri. Wait. Did you say we're in Missouri?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said we're in Kansas.
He was born in Kansas, but we're in Missouri.
Oh, okay. So today's episode takes us to Missouri, which we still have not been to either.
Yeah. Sorry for the squeaking dog toy. There's only so many ways you can entertain a puppy. And
He was so good so earlier.
Alright, so we took a little break to get Atlas to chill a little. So hopefully for some more of this you won't have to hear some squeaks. So while Ken's father farmed the land, his mother was a homemaker who was responsible for taking care of the family's 16 children. However, this left there to be very little supervision for each child, in the sense that there was literally just too many of them to always be able to be with each one of them all at the same time.
How does one birth 16 children?
I have no idea, and also remember this is the 30s. 16 children?
Even then, I get like some families were bigger back then, but 16, hot damn.
Yeah.
The 8 was like still a lot back then, but you're like, let me just pump out
twice that?
Yeah, over a dozen.
Yeah, I couldn't find out how, like, whether or not any of those children, like, perished early or anything like that, so I didn't look much into it. But this lack of supervision didn't seem to be an issue for Ken, though, because he had gotten pretty good at taking care of himself. However, that also meant that because he had almost no supervision, he was able to drop out of high school at the age of 15 when he was in just the 8th grade. He knew how to hunt, he could drive fast, and he could navigate the back roads of Nottoway County, that's where Skidmore is located, by his early teens, which allowed him to quickly develop a reputation of being a cattle rustler, a small-time thief, and a womanizer.
Damn, the big 3.
Yeah. So, for nearly 3 decades, 3+ decades really, leading up to his eventual death, he basically terrorized the residents of Skidmore. Like, everywhere I read, it was, like, they used the word terrorized. Like, there's a reason this guy's called the town bully. So, he is suspected of being involved in a multitude of thefts, including theft of grain, gasoline, alcohol, antiques, and even livestock.
What year is this?
So he was born in 34. We're talking between like 50 to 81.
Okay, so like past the Great Depression.
Yeah. So 21 times he had charges brought against him for these thefts, and yet he avoided conviction in every single one of them.
How many?
21.
21
Yep.
of those.
And he avoided conviction in every single one of them. So you might be asking yourself, how did he avoid charges in all 21 of those cases? Well, that would be because witnesses who originally came to press the charges would ultimately refuse to testify because Ken allegedly intimidated them into withdrawing the charges.
Oh, that's aspiring model citizen behavior right there.
Yeah. So he was frequently seen stalking the witnesses, and even on a couple occasions he attacked them.
Don't you just like to partake in a little witness intimidation tomfoolery?
I guess. I don't know. So once there was a farmer who caught Ken stealing 2 horses from his farm.
Not 1, but 2?
2 horses. He pressed charges against Ken for the theft, but then reportedly dropped the charges after Ken smashed the man across the face with his gun.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if this was the same farmer or if this was another incident with a different farmer, but on July 27th of 1976, there was another time where Ken got caught up with a farmer man named Romaine Henry, and ended up pulling a shotgun on him and shooting him in the stomach twice. Reportedly, Romaine had approached Ken about shooting weapons on his property without permission, And, instead of getting off his land like a normal person would, Ken just shot him in the stomach twice.
What?
For- yeah. Fortunately, Romaine survived the encounter, and Ken was charged with assault with the intent to kill. He denied everything, of course, and then decided that the time between his court dates was best spent sitting outside Romaine's property to try and intimidate him into dropping the charges. He was spotted at least 100 times sitting outside of Romaine's house.
Yo, this is like fucked up,
Yep,
right?
super fucked up. However, when the matter came to trial, I read that there was two different ways that this case was dropped. It was kind of 50-50 on what was said. Either Ken's attorney produced a pair of witnesses who testified that they were hunting raccoons with Ken that day, and that he was nowhere near the scene of the shooting, and or Ken's lawyer pressured Romaine into revealing that he had a petty conviction from 30 years earlier that he had concealed when being questioned as a witness. Somehow, this piece of information was enough to ruin Romaine's reputation, and Ken was found not guilty and was acquitted of the charges. So shot someone in the stomach, smashed someone across the face with a gun. Both of those times, got away with it. He was represented by defense attorney Richard Gene McFadden of Gallatin, Missouri. Richard was described as being a, quote, skilled defense attorney who ran rings around inexperienced prosecutors. He was also described as, quote, a boisterous and quick-witted defense lawyer who had the utmost pleasure of representing Ken on the rare occasion that Ken did see the inside of a courtroom. Because again, many charges would mysteriously get dropped, where witnesses would change their story. Later, Richard would state to the press, he was the best client I ever had. He was punctual, always said he didn't do it, paid in cash, and kept coming back. He told me he would pay me whatever I needed to keep him out of jail. Under no circumstance could I ever be a defense attorney.
What year is this happening? Is this like specific stuff?
The incident with the sitting outside his house 100 times after shooting him in the stomach was 1976. But Richard, the lawyer, Richard McFadden, represented Ken over a couple decades of crime behaviors.
I hate this guy already. I'm trying to grasp my understanding of, like, everyone knows the justice system doesn't work as intended a lot, but like this, grossly bad.
Yeah. The public were not the only ones who felt Ken's bullying behavior. One police officer named Boyer, don't know if that's first name, last name, all I saw was Boyer, was on shift in the evening/night when he pulled a speeding truck over, a pickup truck. In the driver's seat was none other than Ken McElroy. Boyer's quoted as saying, I had my service weapon drawn, and I wouldn't have been the least bit surprised if he tried to do something. His eyes just really put you in defense mode, and he looked like a really mean person. Or he really looked like a mean person. A few days later, Boyer was at his remote country house when he watched a pickup truck. So I'm assuming it was dark, so he couldn't identify whether it was the same color as the one that he had pulled over or not. But he watched this pickup truck cruise up the street, turn around and come back, and then just sat there for about 20 seconds. Boyer couldn't prove that it was Ken, but he did take his shotgun and hide behind a tree, just waiting to see what would happen. Reportedly, nothing occurred, and the incident went uninvestigated.
You know what I'm thinking?
What are you thinking?
I'm surprised this guy didn't start a cult for how godlike and all and omnipotent he must have thought he was.
Honestly, so fair.
Like, he seems like he can control everything around him. So I'm like, why did he not just do a cult like all the other crazies?
I don't know. But this would not be the first, and wouldn't be the last time, that Ken was known to sit outside people's houses in his car for hours at a time.
Get a life, dude. What? There's so many better things you could be doing with your fucking time.
Yep. He also would make threats to family members and friends, and then also brought a gun with him to all of those threats for further intimidation.
Wow, what a lovely individual. He can go fuck himself at this point, is what I'd be thinking.
Yeah. So it gets worse. And the little tales I've already told you are the ones that are most reported. But overall, bad dude. But it gets worse.
Lovely. It's already pretty fucking bad.
Yeah. So by the time Ken was a grown man, he stood 6 foot 2 inches tall, had thick, burly hair and sideburns. Gross. And was known locally to be a heavyweight criminal with a womanizing mean streak. What a what a sentence. What a descriptive sentence.
As I said, model citizen right here.
Yeah. He was described as being charismatic with quote jet black hair and piercing eyes, like that police officer said, with an uncanny ability to sweet talk women, or should I say women and girls.
Oh, oh my
Oh,
good.
just you wait. Just you wait. This is horrible. Over the course of his lifetime, Ken fathered more than 10 children with different women and young girls.
He's really trying to beat his father's record of 16.
Yeah. And unfortunately, very few of these women and girls were actually willing participants in the sexual activities. So really these were just sexual assaults and rape, which is just really sad. When Ken was with his third wife, so number 3, Alice, he met 12-year-old Trina McLeod. 12 years old. Trina McLeod.
And how old is he at the time?
He was 35.
That's a
23-year difference.
23 yikes.
Yeah.
I give that 23 big yikes, like how they give big booms with the Costco guys. Yikes.
5 big yikes.
Yikes. No, 23 big yikes, one for every year.
Yeah, so Trina was 12. She was in the 8th grade. And he was 35.
Oh my, how did... I don't know.
He repeatedly raped her for over 2 years until she became pregnant at 14.
Oh my.
And she ended up dropping out of school to go live with Ken and his third wife, Alice. Yep, you heard that right. Ken brought Trina to go live with Alice. He brought his rape victim, who he impregnated, to live with him and his third wife.
You're wondering why I said nothing. Well, she said that. My mouth was just agape.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
The flies are flying in it.
Oh my. I don't even.
Yep.
How?
It gets worse.
How? What, does he fucking kill somebody too?
Almost, but we're not there yet.
Oh my.
No, so during Trina's pregnancy, Ken realized that he was potentially in some deep legal trouble.
Oh, no shit, Sherlock. I could have told you that.
So he divorced Alice legally, though they apparently still live together. But he did this so that he could marry Trina to avoid statutory rape charges, since Trina was the only witness to the rapes. So there was no one else that could say it was statutory rape. Because he's saying, oh no, that's my wife. She was 14.
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah. So, because Trina was still a minor, she would need her parents' permission in order to marry Ken.
And did she get permission?
No. So, Trina's parents, well, not initially. Trina's parents initially opposed the relationship. As they absolutely fucking should. Because this was a 35-year-old man who impregnated their 14-year-old daughter.
And what year is this?
Well, at that time, he would have been 37.
So wait, he was born in what, 33?
34.
34, so 37, so we're talking 71, right?
I think so, yeah.
So you're in the 70s. At that point, this is definitely something that should be frowned upon then.
Yep.
Like, we've gotten pretty far by the 70s, so you should... This is a big N-O from society.
I was going to say, it's a no from me, dog. No from me.
This is Missouri, though.
Yeah. Well, Trina's parents hoped that their refusal would be enough for Ken to leave the family and their daughter alone. Oh, I forgot to say a trigger warning.
What?
There's a trigger warning for death of a family pet.
Kill their dog or something?
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah, again, so they thought their refusal would be enough for Ken to leave the family and their daughter alone, but that changed when Ken threatened them into changing their mind and agreeing for them to marry by sneaking onto their property and burning their house down until it was completely demolished. And then, to really get the point across, he shot the family dog and killed it.
What the fuck?
Hmm.
Oh man, this dude's burning in hell for sure right now.
Hmm.
Oh,
Still gets worse. So,
stop saying that. I don't like the fact that this somehow gets worse every time. Can we just fast forward to next week when I have a more lighthearted episode?
no. So, this was
Hey,
their.
listener, you're allowed to go to next week right
Yeah, we'll
now and
see you
go
next
see
week if you don't want to hear
go
more.
see more lighthearted. Yeah, last week was kind of lighthearted-ish, but next week too will definitely be lighthearted. We're
Yeah.
talking children, aliens, and something that trigger warning for this one next week: the French.
The French. Sacre bleu. So this was their warning and a promise of much more to come.
The best is yet to come, I guess.
Yeah, if they didn't hand their daughter over to Ken. And unfortunately, thinking they had no other choice, her parents, the McLeods, reluctantly signed the papers, and Trina and Ken were married. Ken, his third wife, Alice, and now his fourth wife, Trina, all continued to live in Ken's house together during Trina's pregnancy. However, just 16 days after Trina gave birth, Alice and Trina made a daring escape with the baby to get away from Ken. They fled to Trina's parents' house, a new one that they got, where they hid away in hopes that he would not come to find them. Their hopes were for naught. Because, however, according to court records, it did not take long for Ken to track the three of them down. So it's Alice, Trina, and the baby. And then drag them back to his house. And following this, he waited until Trina's parents were away to burn their new house down again and to also shoot the family's new dog.
Oh my god. Can you just stop getting worse?
Yeah, so it's assumed his goal was to force Trina's parents into giving up helping her get away from him. So he was just trying to intimidate them enough. So he's burned two houses down. At this point, among whatever crimes weren't really reported on, he smashed someone in the face to get them to not press charges. He shot someone in the stomach twice, somehow got away with that. He's burned one family's house down twice, killed their family dogs twice, and raped their 12-year-old daughter for 2 years until she became pregnant at 14.
Did you say all the
And then
many
tried to legally
thefts
marry her.
he's had too?
Yeah, just the multitude of
Multitude of
crimes.
thefts and
Mhm.
witness intimidation and just overall general shitbagness.
Yeah, he's definitely a shitbag. After this incident, Trina went to the police and told them what Ken had done to her and to her family, including the years of rape that she endured, the arson for burning their house down twice, and the murder of the family dogs. Ken was charged with arson, assault, and statutory rape, but was ultimately released on a $2,500 bail. Don't ask me what that is in today's money. All I know is it's probably not a lot. During this endeavor, Trina and her baby were placed into foster care in an attempt to protect them from Ken. And instead of focusing on working with his lawyer to get himself relieved of the charges, he instead spent his time tracking down Trina again.
Dude, get a fucking life. Holy shit.
Yeah. He left his defense up to the attorney, Richard McFadden. So he was like, yeah, I'll pay you. You do it. I'm going to go stalk my 14-year-old wife. Unfortunately, Ken was able to track down Trina and the baby. He began stalking the foster family that had taken Trina and the baby in, and sat outside their home for hours at a time. And on at least one occasion, Ken actually approached the home to speak with the foster parents. Essentially, he told them that he was willing to, quote, make a trade of girl for girl. He wanted to trade Trina and the baby in exchange for not kidnapping their daughter.
How do the cops not stop this damn guy?
I don't know.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So he went on to explain to the foster parents that he knew who their daughter was, where she went to school, what way she came home from school, and could therefore easily take her off the streets.
It just I I don't know what to say about this man. Besides, he is probably one of the worst people to ever exist.
Mm-hmm. Again,
Because
town bully.
and
That's saying it lightly, in my opinion.
town shitbag, more like it. But there's like there are hundreds of serial killers out there, and they do it private and they do it discreet. Which I'm not saying it's great that they do that, but like when you're fucking in the people's face, like, hey, I'm going to kidnap and kill your daughter, and you can't do shit about it, I find that worse for some reason.
Absolutely.
And I hate to say I find something worse than another when we're talking about a person's life, but like, fuck this guy.
Yeah. Yep.
As a Joker meme on Facebook once said, fuck the fucking fuckers.
Okay. So, reportedly, the foster parents did actually refuse Ken and instead filed charges against him for the threats.
Yo, they refused the will of God, apparently.
Essentially.
Bold.
Once again, though, these charges didn't deter Ken in any way. He had nearly 2 decades at this point of getting away with crimes that had bolstered his confidence and made him believe that he could get away with anything. Truthfully, I think this dude was bipolar. Like, if I'm looking at the symptomology, but that's just me, because part of that is delusions of grandeur. Is I can do fucking anything, and I'm not gonna get hurt. I'm not gonna care.
Truthfully, I'm gonna say I think he's a shitbag.
Yeah.
I can't.
Not to say that people with bipolar are shitbags.
All of our episodes lately have, just because how we've been talking, have explicit on them. This one, very much explicit. I am not holding back on what I'm saying about this dude.
Yeah. But get away with it, he did. He was able to get Trina out of the system and bring her back with her baby to live with him again.
Oh my god.
I'm not entirely sure what happened in the terms of their life or what happened to Trina. I don't know how that went down. There wasn't a lot of information on that. All I know is he got her out of the system, brought her home.
Hi, caramba.
Yeah. Moving ahead to about 4 years later, Ken's children, his 10 children, were learning to take after his ways and were becoming the next generation of criminals in the small town of Skidmore.
You're kidding me.
Nope, I wish that I was.
This shitbag apple doesn't fall far from the shitbag tree.
Yep, unfortunately.
Oh my god.
In 1980, one of Ken's children, I believe it was a daughter, though she was not identified by name, got into an argument with store clerk Evelyn Sumi in a local grocery store owned by 70-year-old Ernst Bowenkamp and his wife Lois, after trying to steal some candy from them. In retaliation for his daughter getting into this argument, Ken began stalking the Bowenkamp family for years. So this took place in like the end of like a couple years before the 70s ended, and for like over the course of a few years, he stalked this family, and then his behavior escalated, and he eventually threatened Bo Bowenkamp in the back of the store with a shotgun, and he ended up shooting Bo in the neck. And he miraculously survived the attack and pressed charges.
And he gets away with it.
Kinda. He appeals.
Oh, he gets found guilty and appeals it?
Yeah, and then he's let out on bail. But I'll get there. So, State Police Corporal, I think that's what it is, Corporal CPO. I don't know.
Yeah, corporal.
Okay. Richard Stratton knew Ken's ways due to Ken's history threatening that police officer from earlier, but also, just being the town bully. And he waited on a back road near the Kansas border where he had assumed that Ken was going to go, because that, I believe, is where Ken got pulled over previously. He was right. He was able to stop and arrest Ken. And in court, Bo, the guy who was shot, testified about how Ken confronted him in the loading dock of the grocery store while he was cutting up boxes and shot him in the neck. Then Ken, described by veteran journalist Phil Conger as a, quote, big brute of a guy with slicked back hair like Elvis, took the stand. I don't know.
Oh God, what did he do?
He testified that Bo attacked him with a knife and he shot him in the neck in self-defense. Yep, tried the self-defense. Defense.
It's coming right at me. That's what they do.
He brought a gun to a knife fight. Or, I don't
He
know,
brought
a knife to a gunfight.
Claims the other guy brought a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah, you got me. So Ken was charged with attempted murder and was actually convicted at trial, but not of murder. He was convicted of second-degree assault and was given 2 years in prison. However, once again, the system failed this town, and he was let out on bail to await the appeal of his charges.
Where is he getting all this money to hire this defense attorney who was willing to suck his dick if he had to?
I'm assuming he was stealing it or something.
Dude, his defense attorney has the morals. I don't even know what.
Not a lot.
Fickle as can be.
Yeah. So shortly after Ken being released, State Police Corporal Stratton's wife, Margaret, was headed to church when she saw a strange truck in her driveway. Turns out, it was none other than Ken waiting for her. She reported to A&E Crime during an interview years later, "I didn't know what to do. I got in the car and I was shaking so bad." She eventually gathered her strength and she put the car into reverse. Well, Ken did too. She backed out. Ken backed out. He followed her and tailed her until she was able to radio to Richard, because remember, this is the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
like 80, 81. Until she was able to radio her husband and other police, like on the radio or whatever, and squad cars showed up to chase him away. Mm-hmm. And at the time of the interview, she said, "I think he treated the whole town of Skidmore that way." She was 78 when she gave this interview. I don't know how old she was when it was happening, though. But she wrote that she didn't feel brave, but it got to the point that it made her mad. And that is why she called her husband. And she also, I'm assuming, was scared.
Yeah.
And following his release, Ken went to local bar, the D&G Tavern, with an M1 Garand rifle equipped with a bayonet on it. A bayonet in the 70s.
I mean, they still use bayonet weapons now.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just assumed that was a Civil War thing.
No. You know what an M1 Garand is? World War II rifle, often used by Americans.
Oh.
And you'd fasten a bayonet to it, too.
Interesting. Well, probably not good to have in the hands of somebody who's getting drunk.
Yep.
Because that's what he was doing. And the more he drank, the more he bragged about the punishment that he was going to dole out to Ernest Bowenkamp, the store owner. And understandably, the citizens of Skidmore started to get real pissed off. And so they were like trying to think about what the hell they could do legally to get Ken away from them and to stop harming anyone else. However, though, the attempt on Bo's life was a turning point for the town. Right? Couldn't do anything legally. They tried. This man had 21 different charges pressed against him at one point. 21 different cases. Got away with all of them. And so at this point, almost every member of the community had tried to stand up to Ken at one point in time, and most of them had filed charges against him that had gone absolutely nowhere. So they were basically just sitting and waiting for him to get off once again from this appeal. And his appeal hearing was delayed again. So he's still out. It keeps getting delayed. So he's just out and about
Can't they
doing
put him
his
back
shit.
in when he does shit like this?
Apparently not. And on the morning of July 10th, so we're coming up here a couple days, of 1981, the townspeople met at the Legion Hall in the center of town with Nottoway County Sheriff Dan Estes to discuss how to protect themselves. During that meeting, Ken arrived at that same D&G tavern with his wife Trina in tow. As he sat drinking at the bar, word got back to the men at the Legion Hall that he was in town and that he was at the bar. Sheriff Estes instructed the assembled group to not get into a direct confrontation with Ken, but instead to seriously consider forming a neighborhood watch program. But unlike some other cases, the sheriff here did something that is definitely questionable and rarely seen, I would say. He got into his police cruiser after the meeting and before, everything that went down, and he drove out of town. Just straight up took himself out of town. Likely knowing that the men in the meeting that had just found out that Ken was already drinking in the tavern with his wife and that they were going to do something. So he was like, form a watch program. I'm gonna hike out of here. I'll see y'all later. The sheriff.
Not his issue is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So could the sheriff have known what was about to happen? Was there any way that he didn't? Probably not. Would you put him at fault for walking away? Before I tell you what happened?
Sounds like regardless what was about to happen, would happen. It's about the lack, because of the podcast we're on, it's about the lack of conviction is on him.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's where I would put his fault at.
So the citizens at the meeting, which was about 50 members of Skidmore's community, decided to go to the tavern all together. And they completely filled the bar. Because again, there's 50 of them. I think 46 to be exact. They found Ken already drunk and, quote, up to his eyeballs with liquid confidence. After Ken finished his drinks, he purchased a 6-pack of beer and left the bar while forcibly ordering Trina into the passenger seat of the truck. And then he entered the driver's seat of his pickup truck. A few minutes later, several shots sounded off, and sounds of glass shattering filled the air. 2 of the shots entered Ken's body and were enough to kill him. I did not find out exactly where they entered him at. I'm assuming probably somewhere in his chest. Probably somewhere
Chest or head by the sounds of it.
According to forensic analysis of the bullet, Ken was struck by bullets from 2 different firearms. One was from a center fire bullet, and one was from I think it's 22, like .22 would be 22 caliber.
22
caliber rim fire bullet, whatever those are. 2 different guns. One of the police officers called to the scene, that's Boyer, same one who pulled him over earlier, is quoted as saying that Ken's rear window was shot out and the front window was shot as well, and part of his teeth were lying on the dashboard. Gross. So I'm assuming head then. Gross. And it's no surprise that the residents of this town held a lot of resentment for the police. And so while Boyer was taking trajectory measurements at the crime scene, a townsperson came up to him and said, "What are you doing here? Why are you doing this? You know what he was like. You know how he oppressed and threatened us. I don't believe you're coming now after we needed your help all of this time." I don't blame them.
Yeah.
I don't blame them at all. Trina, again, she's in the passenger seat, and despite being in the closed cabin of the truck, was unharmed, completely unharmed, and left the scene with no injuries. Maybe minus, the trauma of watching him die. So when I was reading that, I struggled a little bit with some conflicting emotions because I can only imagine that she probably felt maybe some kind of relief that her abuser was dead, but also I can't imagine how traumatic it would be to witness a death like that, no matter who it is. Like teeth on the dashboard?
I mean, it's an execution, basically.
Yeah. Despite there being almost 50 witnesses and a bunch of other townspeople coming to the center of town after hearing the commotion, miraculously, no one had seen anything.
What a coinkydink.
Yeah. No one called for emergency medical services, and no one came to the driver's side of the cabin to check on and help Ken. Not at all. Trina, however, was assisted in getting out of the car and moving away from the scene, and an unnamed man is quoted as saying that she scrambled out of the truck screaming, covered in blood, and he was also unable to identify anybody, even though he was pretty close. So Ken had just been killed in broad daylight.
Well, this was in the evening, right? Or no?
No, this is like during the day.
Oh.
Midday. He was killed in broad daylight, and that is actually the title of the book, written by Harry McLean, and a 1991 TV movie of the same name.
Killed in broad daylight?
Yep, we're just called In Broad Daylight.
In broad daylight.
So, I didn't actually read the book, but it is mentioned quite a lot, so if you're interested, I would highly recommend reading that. I believe that the Girls of Morbid read it whenever they were doing this case, and so if they liked it, then I'm sure it's a good book.
Man, that's... Nobody said a thing.
Nope. The case ended up being investigated by local authorities and was then investigated by the FBI after no one identified possible suspects and a killer was never found. Not found. Trina reportedly named a possible gunman, a local rancher, but he denied the claims and no one was willing to come forward with corroboration of her suspect or who fired the shots that took the life of the town bully. On July 9th of 1984, so nearly 3 years to the day after Ken's death, Trina McElroy filed a $5 million wrongful death lawsuit against the town of Skidmore, the county of Nottoway, Sheriff Danny Estes, Steve Peters, who was the mayor of Skidmore at the time, and Del Clement, that's the rancher that Trina accused of being the shooter, but was never charged. The case ended up being settled out of court by all parties for a measly $17,600, with no one admitting guilt, for the stated reason of avoiding costly legal fees should the suit proceed. So, really, they were just like, we'll give you a little bit of money so that you'll stop pushing us. Again, don't ask what that is in today's money. I didn't look it up.
More than whatever it was back then.
Yep, just a little too lazy. Trina McElroy would go on to accuse Skidmore residents of turning her husband into a scapegoat. Quote, he was a good-hearted person. He'd help anyone that needed to be helped.
Man, I had pity for her.
Well, do you think that this could be some kind of Stockholm syndrome?
Yes.
Like, I know we don't use that term anymore, but, like, I don't remember what it is that we use now, but, like...
He had been with her for a little over, about a decade, since she was 14. Almost...
Since she was 12.
Well, no. Oh, yeah, since she was 12.
So they've been together, like,
so
12 years?
She was, I think, 22 at the time, or what?
She would have been 24,
24? So, that means 12 of her 24 years of life were with...
half of her life, literally.
Yeah. And of that half that wasn't with him, probably only, half of it you can easily remember. So that makes about 2/3 of your entire memorable life is this man. Of course she's going to have that, lean towards him, and eventually he'll be her, like, that figure in her life she goes to. I mean, I know Stockholm Syndrome is not the term now, but, like, I have no idea what the hell it is.
Honestly, I don't remember either. I think there's something.
But, like, there is a thing in psychology, if I'm not mistaken, where, like, you basically, the abuser, or, this is how cults work, too.
Yeah. Let me look it up. What do we call Stockholm Syndrome now? I guess... Now, it says, well, this is AI overview, so I can't say how, good this is. But it's, while Stockholm Syndrome is still a widely used term, it is not an officially recognized diagnosis in the field of psychology. It is often referred to as trauma bonding, or considered a specific presentation of trauma bonding, which is more broadly recognized phenomenon. Some experts also link it to other trauma-related conditions like PTSD, anxiety, and depression. So, Trauma bonding is used to describe the psychological attachment that can develop between a victim and an abuser, which includes the positive feelings and identification with the abuser that's typically seen in Stockholm Syndrome. So the DA didn't feel the need to press charges, and the FBI investigation didn't lead to any charges being brought against anyone as well. Meanwhile, major media outlets descended into Skidmore, and reports of its, quote, vigilantes became water cooler talk across the U.S. I don't know what that means, but I left it in there because it was an interesting use of the term. And that would be why we're talking about this case today, because it is so huge, because no one was convicted. Within the last few decades or so, police officers and townspeople from Skidmore were interviewed about this unsolved case. Nottoway County Sheriff Randy Strong, so the new sheriff, worked on the case when he was first starting in law enforcement. He's quoted as saying, "I was pretty new and found myself over there in the middle of that crime scene, and then was given the task of interviewing, looking for witnesses, interviewing some witnesses. I actually went to the funeral home and documented some of the injuries, or the wounds, I should say, and I worked on it for about 3 days, and that was it." Strong said he believes that 2 suspects initially named by possible witnesses are now deceased, so there would be no reason to go after them. And that this case he also said that this case is an unfortunate legend in the area, with people from all around the world trying to solve it.
Including us now.
Yeah. And there was apparently even a man from Israel who came to try to solve it, and he was unsuccessful. But I don't know, just thought that was an interesting tidbit. Strong's also quoted as saying, "Every once in a while, some new documentary film photographer comes in and wants to bring it all back up." I'm assuming he said that with a little bit of annoyance.
Oh man, we are the nuisance today.
We are. Police Corporal Richard Stratton from earlier, the one responsible for arresting him that final time, was quoted as saying, "Those were fathers and grandfathers on the street in Skidmore that day. Ordinary, hardworking people. They did what they did because we didn't do our job. Then they went home and kept their mouths shut and kept them closed all these years." Completely fair assessment.
Yeah, no, that
And
sounds like exactly what happened.
honestly appreciated that he recognizes that a lot of this is his and the police's fault.
Yeah.
And Cheryl Brown, that's Bo's daughter, the one who was shot in the neck, is quoted as saying, "The town emptied out every time Ken came to town. Everyone was so uncomfortable and scared." So it's like, it's no wonder.
That people took it into their own hands.
Exactly. My last little piece here, I called "Rest in Distress."
What a title.
Yeah. So Ken Rex McElroy was buried at Memorial Park Cemetery in St. Joseph, Missouri. Trina ended up getting remarried and moved to Lebanon, Missouri, and she would go on to live until January 24th, 2012, where she died of cancer on her 55th birthday.
Jeez, young.
Yeah. Other key players in McElroy's story have also died as of the time of us doing this episode. And on nearly the 44th anniversary of his death, that's where we're coming up. So it'll be 44 years this Thursday, I believe, is the 10th. Other people who have died are McFadden, so his lawyer, Bowen Camp, who's the grocery store owner, and the rancher that was accused of pulling the trigger. And again, that one Sheriff Strong believes that both suspects who were possibly identified are dead at this point. Like I said earlier, the case of Ken's death inspired a book called In Broad Daylight by Harry McLean, and a 1991 TV movie of the same name starring Brian Dennehy. A&E, Rolling Stone, Playboy, 60 Minutes, and a bunch of other media outlets covered the story in print or on television.
Shout out to Playboy.
In 2019, the McElroy killing was the subject of a docuseries on Sundance TV, and BuzzFeed's Unsolved network produced a 24-minute true crime documentary on the shooting as well. So,
oh.
Good old Shane and Ryan. So, veteran Kansas City criminal defense attorney J.R. Hobbs tells A&E True Crime that, quote, "Theoretically, the murder could be reinvestigated, but unless a very credible witness came forward, it's not likely to happen."
I don't think anyone who knows anything wants to say anything.
Yeah,
I think they've made it fairly clear.
Exactly. I'll end us. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
There's no hiding that. That's just broad daylight. Nobody wants to talk about it. Only one person, only a handful of people want to get it solved, and they are outnumbered heavily.
Yep. And so I will end us on one last quote from a Missouri-based journalist, Steve Bucher. He describes the attitude of some of the townspeople as, quote, he needed killing. Mic drop. What are your thoughts?
I am not an advocate for stuff like the death penalty. I am against that type of stuff. As controversial as it may be to hold that stance, that is mine. I don't believe in mob justice, which is what clearly happened here.
Vigilante justice, for sure.
Yeah. And I'd call it more mob justice because there's multiple people
Well,
involved.
mob, but it's still considered vigilante,
Yeah.
I'd say.
I don't think
vigilante mob justice.
I do not agree with that. Granted, Ken did everything in his power to make this happen.
Yeah, he was a piece of shit.
What happened there was of his own fault. Based on all of his actions he had done to various people, you can only take people to some extent till you hit a breaking point. That's how everything is. That's how animals are. You can only get them to some point to where they break. Like you and I recently watched Blackfish about the killer whales at SeaWorld. You can only do so much to an animal till at one point it snaps, and Tillicum ends up killing 3 people.
And another one in Spain killed someone as well.
Yep.
Killer whale. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. But like similar to people, you can only push people so far until they do something in return, and people have access to guns. Can do whatever the fuck they want. It's clearly this probably could have been an easy slam dunk case, many witnesses, but it's never going to get solved. No one's going to care enough to actually solve it. Sucks for Ken that's how he went. I personally think he should have rotted away in a cell. I think that would have been a fitting way to end, because he probably wouldn't have been the toughest guy in prison, and it would not have gone well for him.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that should have been the proper route for him, but the law failed, obviously, and I think based on everything he told me, the law put some more effort into this. I think they could have gotten him.
I definitely think they could have gotten him if only somebody stopped, either after the first time he intimidated a witness, you didn't let him out on bail at the next crime he committed. Letting him out on bail every single fucking time just because his lawyer was really good. You made this happen. I agree with that sheriff who said we didn't do what we should have done.
Yeah. That's my thoughts on it. Is that a good comprehensive thoughts?
Absolutely. And I agree.
Also, one final thought too. He's a shitbag.
Definitely. Definitely a shitbag. But I will say that this was definitely something that was pretty interesting to research, because it's not your typical unsolved death that we talk about where the killer's not caught and you sympathize for the person who's killed and all that kind of stuff. In this case, we hate the guy who was killed. Doesn't mean though that we wouldn't want this to be solved and for justice to happen, but I do think justice should have happened before it ever got to this point. But that's what I have for you today on Ken Rex McElroy.
That was something else.
Yeah, the town bully.
And that was a bit disturbing for a lot of it. If you guys want something less disturbing, you can go back, check out a few episodes ago on some other less disturbing things. Not the Bradford Bishop case, not the Amos haunting. We made it kind of fun. Sounds so awful. And or you can check out next week as we talk about aliens, children, and the French. Now, if you're afraid of the French, understandable. I see where you're coming from. I feel you. I hear you. I acknowledge you. Come back the week after when we're no longer talking about the French and we're talking about whatever Sage has to talk about. I think she might be doing her second cryptid episode finally.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't decided yet.
I'm giving you sass on that. You've done one cryptid episode and I've done 5.
Yeah. I don't like
Cryptids are cool.
You do
Look
the
at the sticker on my laptop. Look at how fun they are.
They are cool, but I like to
I
hear
am a-
about them from you.
I'm friend of cryptids. Look at them. Look at those Fresno night crawlers that Lake Monster, Mothman, Flatwoods Monster, Frogman, Chupacabra, Bigfoot, Jersey Devil. All of them fun guys.
I love cryptids. I just like to hear about them from you and not from having to do the research.
Hey, if you want, you can go to the cryptozoology subreddit where they're fighting right now.
I think you told me earlier why they're fighting. But
Yeah.
Could you describe again?
Oh my goodness. One guy got to start posting all these hoaxes as actual things, and people are like, dude, these are hoaxes. And he's like, I can't. The skepticism on here has gone too far, which arguably in cryptozoology subreddit, it is a bit far in the skepticism, but he's all pissed about it. And it's like the most obvious hoaxes. So he made his own subreddit called True Cryptozoology, and he just got his account suspended. So every one of his posts, which is almost all the ones on True Cryptozoology, are now gone because dude's been like breaking Reddit rules. So yeah, so
Wow.
I can't see the post where I've commented to some of his stuff. The dude's annoying. He's cringe as hell. He's a Ken Rex McElroy of the cryptozoology subreddit,
The bully, the town,
and he just got gunned down.
the cryptozoology Reddit bully.
Yeah, he just got his account suspended, so he got gunned down too.
Well, that's terrible. That's terrible. All right, you ready to wrap up?
Yeah, anything else you have to say on this one?
No, that's all I got.
All right, guys. So I'm going to wrap us up here. So if you guys are liking what you're listening to, check out our other episodes. And if you've caught up with all of those, then check out whatever comes next. We appreciate you guys coming back and listening. If you are really liking it, we would really appreciate any likes, comments, rates, reviews on whatever platform you are on, any follows, all of that. Every single little bit helps us, and we really appreciate every single bit of it. Just keep it up. We really like it. Spread the word. Tell your friends, family, your babysitter, your dad's uncle's relative that has seen a Sam Squanch at some point.
What?
Your dad's uncle's half friend who saw Sam Squanch one time while hunting. That guy. You gotta tell him too about this. Spread the word. And if you want to follow us somewhere, we have a Blue Sky that I barely touch. There's a lot of dust on it. A Twitter that I've not touched in forever because I hate that site. And our Instagram where I am most active. You can most easily reach out to us, and that will typically be me. And yeah, that's about it to wrap it up. So Sage, you ready for the final sign-off?
Yep, I'm all ready.
All right. And remember,
to look for
the unknown,
the unsolved,
and the unseen.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.
Do not be the town bully.
Yeah, don't be a shitbag.